All right, now we'll have some fun. Show you guys some Flex Bass Syndicate. This is the Orion 250 HCCA. All right, so it's 1991. You've got 12 12s in your pickup truck with a snug top on the back, and you're looking for an amp, 100 watt amp, cheater amp to power this. You have choice of the Hifonics Isis or the Orion 250 HCCA. So you pull out the 1991 Car Stereo Review Buyer's Guide, and you take a gander. You see the Hifonics Isis, $900 retail, is rated 400 by 1 and 2 ohms. That's approximately $1,700 in 2020 money. Also, the Orion 250 HCCA, $849 back then. That's $1,615 in 2020 dollars. Well, luckily today, 2020, we actually have both amps. Prime example of both. Let's go back to 1995. We see the Orion HCCA in some product literature for Orion. And here's the infamous red, candy apple red anodized Orion 250 HCCA. And let's talk about the generations. First generation, called the Moon and Stars, from 86 to around 91, did require a bridging module if you wanted to run it in mono. Had no EQ or mono button, and it's known to turn pink if exposed to sunlight. Second gen is what we have here, 92 to 96. Internal bridging and tri-mode, both stable at 2 ohms, mono or 1 ohm stereo, and rated 100 watts for competition purposes. There were also later generations of the 250 HCCA that we won't be talking about today. So let's take a look at the exterior here. See the DIN input on the left, RCA inputs, peak power LEDs, gain control. We have an EQ button, also have a mono button. And the DIN input was designed for some of the Orion accessories, such as the in-dash EQs and also some of the external crossovers that you could get. This port would power those with the phantom power. Now the amp overall, this one's in pretty good shape. It does have 8 gauge for the power and ground on the other side, and that comes directly out of the amp, and that was standard for amps at this time. It also had a Molex plug with 14 gauge leads on there. It's a 9-pin Molex, but only used 5 of the 9. You can see here we've got left and right, positive and negative, and also the turn-on lead to turn on the amp. Overall, this has been a really good choice back in 1991. These amps were tried and true, known to produce power, and yeah, they were used by a lot of people in competitions back then. However, we have this other challenger by Hifonics, the Isis. This is a 100 watt cheater amp also, 50 by 2, and it was made between 89 and 91. It did have internal bridging and tri-mode operation, high quality Tiffany style RCA jacks, had binding posts for the speaker terminals, which is nice. Also stable at 2 ohms mono or 1 ohm stereo, rated 50 by 2 for competition purposes. Here's an ad from 1989 showing the Hifonics Isis. Looks exactly like the one we have here, which is beautiful. You can see here on the left side, we have the binding post. Then we have the gain control in the center and RCA inputs, a power LED, a diagnostic LED. Not as much going on here as with the Orion. We don't have any buttons for EQ or mono or anything like that, but it does have the nicer RCAs that I like, and also like the speaker connections. On the opposite end, we have 8 gauge for power and ground, same as the Orion. And then it has another wire coming out for the turn-on. Now we'll take a quick look here at the size comparison. 21.75 by 8.75 inches for the Isis. The Orion's quite a bit shorter, 17 inches by 8.5 inches. So if you're going, spending your money based on how much you're going to get, it looks like the Isis is going to give you more. Isis is 2.5 inches tall. The Orion's 2.25 inches tall. And here's both amps again. These are very nice versions of these amps. They're 30 years old, superb condition here. So really excited about getting to try both. Make sure you stick around till after the amp dyno test and we will show the gut shots. But however, in addition to amp dyno tests, we're going to do SPL tests as well. That's right. We heard people say, oh yeah, one amp does better in SPL than the other one, even though they do, supposed to do about the same power. So we're going to find out. So let's get the amps wired up, and we're going to fire up the amp dyno here. Got everything hooked up to 0 gauge. So the 8 gauge going into 0 gauge for both amps. We'll fire up the amp dyno. We're going to do the old-fashioned amp dyno drag race. see which one is more powerful. You guys ready? Here it comes. All right, first up, we're doing all the tests in mono. So 8 ohms mono simulates 4 ohms stereo times 2. All right, Hifonics versus Orion. We're gonna try 8 ohms, and the amps are both rated 100 watts bridged 8 ohms, which equals to 50 watts by 2 at 4 ohms. Let's try 40 hertz, see what we get. Channel 1, Hifonics, channel 2, Orion. All right, both do considerably more than 100 watts. Look how close that is, 147 to 148, right at 14.5 volts. Wow. All right, next up, 4 ohms mono, both amps are rated 200 watts. Let's see what we get. Both are rated to do 200 watts. Wow, is that close or is that close? 280 to 279. Wow, Hifonics only wins by 1 watt. Look how much bigger it is. All right, now we're gonna do 2 ohms mono, both amps rated 400 watts. Remember, these amps are 30 years old. All right, so we've done several amp dyno tests of these two dyno drag here, the Hifonics Isis and the Orion 250 HCCA. I wanted to see what the current pull was with both amps. So I'm gonna try a 2 ohm certified run, and we're gonna check that. 40 hertz. Let's see what we get here. Should be around 500 watts for each amp is what we got. They're very close in power. Yeah, 502, 467. Here you can see from the Orion we pulled 77.8 amps of current. All right, 2 ohms up to clipping. Hifonics channel 1, Orion channel 2. Let's try 40 hertz up to clipping, see what we get. $519 Hifonics, 485 Orion, right at 14 volts. Let's try dynamic at 2 ohms. This is where they're rated 400 watts. We're gonna try a 40 hertz dynamic track. See what we get. Wow, that's close. Look at that. Test is done. 509 Hifonics, 511 Orion. Dead on. All right, guys, so I usually voice over the part where I do the amp dyno runs, but in this case, I just wanted to give you the live reaction that I had because it was unbelievable to me how close both of these amps were. You can pause this and look closer to see the numbers, but wow, super dead on. Now, in addition to the amp dyno tests, I had people suggest do SPL tests. So I decided to give everything exactly the same scenario. Let's just see what the differences are between these amps. All right, guys, so just playing around with the setup here. I've got the red Orion 250 HCCA hooked up, and we decided to go with the 4 Savard HiQ 8s here in this custom box. It was put together by Nick. Check the video description for a link to him, so maybe he can build you a box, but I just want to show you guys. Let's go back to 3 kinds of bass. Start at the beginning. All right, let's do SPL test, the Orion 250 HCCA. All right, here you can see the Orion hooked up. We also have the Term Lab connected. We have the probe on the speaker lead there. And there's the box that connects into the power. You have the power probe as well as the speaker probe. And there's the 250 HCCA, so let's try it out and see how it does. All right, we still have the Orion 250 HCCA. Let's try Bass Syndicate. See what we get here on music. Alright, so with the Bass Syndicate song and the Orion amp, we got 134.65, 812 watts. Alright, same setup. Let's swap out the amp to the Hifonics Isis, see what it does. Alright, next up we'll try the Hifonics Isis 100 watt beast amp. Let's see. Alright, Hifonics Isis cheater amp. Let's start up the Term Lab. We're going to do Silicon Bass by Bass Syndicate. See what we get here on music. And here you go, my friends. Cannot get much closer. 134.45 for Hifonics, 134.65 Orion, 0.2 of a point. All right, now we're going to try Tone Gem Pro. We found 46 hertz to be the best frequency here for doing the SPL test in the vehicle. Orion HCCA. All right, 136.88 on the tone, 510 watts, 2 ohms. All right, we'll try again. This time we'll do more of a burp at 46 hertz. All right, Orion 250 HCCA, we're going to try a burp here at 46 hertz. See what we get. All right, as you can see, a little bit better, 136.95. All right, let's try the Hifonics, see what we get on the tone. All right, now we're going to try the 46 hertz test tone for the Hifonics Isis. Start it up, and here we go. All right, yes, you're seeing that right, 136.96. Literally 1/100th of a difference between these two amps. Just, you can't get any closer than that. I was just blown away. So now we've proven both amps are virtually identical, power-wise, SPL-wise, everything else. Don't you guys want to know what's inside? I definitely do. We'll start off with the Orion 250 HCCA. And yes, we're using my favorite screwdriver kit. Check the video description so you can pick up one. You have to take off a couple of screws here on the end plate, and the end plate will just kind of slide out of the way. Then you can flip the amp over and then just slide the bottom panel off to see the guts. And yeah, you can see circuit board takes up the entire amplifier here. Has the caps, power supply, filter caps there, rail caps, all that good stuff. And yeah, Nichikan, very nice here for the capacitors, good quality. Now the Hifonics Isis, much bigger amplifier. Flip it over, you have to take one of the amp panels off on it as well, and the amp slides out. But are you guys ready for this? I could not believe it. Check this out. What?
Got him! Got him!
Where's the beef? Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
Yeah, that's right, friends. Reminiscent of the Pyramid Shadow Series amp I showed a long time back, a couple years ago, where you took the bottom plate off and the amp board was very small. I was surprised to see the Hifonics this way. Now, I knew beforehand that it was actually a small board, but just to see it inside this huge heatsink, thinking that, hey, maybe, you know, Hifonics was just showing a big heatsink and people thinking they were getting more than they're really getting. But yeah, this is kind of embarrassing, actually. The Orion looks much beefier, but as you could tell on the Dyno, they did about the same power, and the more heatsink is going to help the amp stay cooler, so I don't know. Let's do some more subwoofer tests though, just to have fun. All right, now we'll have some fun. Show you guys some Flex Bass Syndicate. This is the Orion 250 HCCA red. Here we go. All right, we're just having some fun here, listening to some old school DJ Magic Mike. Let's feel the bass. What do you say? All right, here we have the Hifonics hooked up. Let's turn it on. Here's the power LED. Got the speakers in the bridge. See how you see which ones you do the left positive, right negative. Let's try it out on the sub, see what it sounds like. All right, Hifonics Isis on the HiQ Savard 8s. Let's try 3 kinds of bass. All right, still with the Hifonics Isis right there. Let's try Silicon Bass by Bass Syndicate. There you have what I hope would be considered as a thorough test between the 1991 Hifonics Isis and 1991 Orion 250 HCCA, both cheater amps from way back in the day. And after we did all the tests, we did measure the heat, of course. As you would expect, the Hifonics with a small board and big heat sink, only 94.5 degrees Fahrenheit, whereas the Orion, yep, the red showed its true colors, got a little warmer, 111.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, this was a fun test. Hope you guys enjoyed it, because I sure enjoyed making it. These amps were like dream amps for me back in the day. Way too expensive. I could never afford them. But it was fun. Put them on the dyno, they survived. Put them on speakers, they survived. Thanks as always for watching and supporting at patreon.com/oldschoolstereo. Until next time, Big D, you know where I'm at. I'm out of here. All right, call me crazy. We're going to try 1.3 ohms. These amps are only rated down to 2 ohms mono, but we're going to try it. 1.3, 40 hertz, dynamic burst. Hifonics channel 1, Orion channel 2. That is amazingly close. Look at that. 660 versus 654, right at 14 volts. Unreal.